So, we're recording now.
Mhm.
What do you want to know?
I wanted just to go through one more time the our rules when we are opening trades on New York,
Okay.
Asia, and London.
I think I can delete everything that I have here. I took screenshots, I think. Um, Actually, I don't have to. I'm going to, but I just remembered I don't have to, right? I can just go on a new chart. Like on something that I never use, like BitGet. Is the chart good enough? Let's see. Looks okay.
Hmm.
Okay, so essentially, okay, so step by step. Uh, there's only one situation where we open trades before the range ends, which is when the range itself takes previous liquidity.
Hmm.
Uh, for example, if it takes previous liquidity and gives us the inverted FEG, that's the only situation where
Hmm.
you can open a trade before the 15-minute ends. So
Hmm.
logically, it's like this is from this line forward, this vertical line forward. Um,
Hmm.
if, for example, we were to take liquidity from London, such as, for example, this wick or that wick, and then have an inverted FEG, you could take a trade. Let's see if we did
Hmm.
that one of these days. Not really. Or did we? Let me see. Eh, weird. Let's see if I can give another example. I mean, this is not terrible, it's just that it's so internal.
Hmm.
Maybe this is better? This is better, okay. This is a lot better. For example, oh, but it was after the range. Uh, this is traditional, so to speak. Maybe here. Also no. Okay, but anyway, let's just pretend just for a little bit.
Hmm.
Let's just
But
pretend.
this is already explained. This is already explained for me, like when you said, like with the liquidity. Now I know what you're looking
Yeah,
for, either the low from London or any kind of low which was, previously or high as a liquidity.
well, let me just give you an example, a fake example, just to explain the logic.
Okay.
So let's
Yeah,
suppose that this move over here
is our range.
is our range. It's
Hmm.
not, it was like a little bit before.
Yeah.
But
So,
just for the example, let's imagine, pretend that this was the range. Because it took, this is an Asia low, I think.
hmm.
It's actually yesterday's, would be the previous day New York low. So
Hmm.
if if it takes a previous low and then has an inverted FEG like it does here, then you could take a trade based on this. Uh,
Hmm.
removing, sorry, taking out liquidity with a vector, that vector having an internal FEG, having a candle close above that, which you only do, to be fair, you only do have the candle close over there. Why do these colors look so fucking ugly?
Oh, I changed it. Sorry. I just like I don't know
I
why
changed it
the
again,
gold
sorry.
in put it. No, no, you're absolutely okay. I forgot to put it back.
Right. Um, so you would get something like this. And
Mm-hmm.
when this happens, generally if you take sell side liquidity, then you target buy side liquidity, which
Mm-hmm.
in this case, you have kind of this curve that you could take this, you have this, and you have these stacked highs as well. So that would kind of be the idea for like a safe profit. These guys would be the better ones. This guy over here is a little bit less probability because it took liquidity before moving down. So
Mm-hmm.
this could eventually be a better high than these guys. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that would be the target. So that is the only situation where you open up a trade inside the range or while the range is forming. Because in
Mm-hmm.
any other situation, you wait the 15 minutes. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, today, uh, I can remove the line now. Today, we did take some internal liquidity, but there was no internal FVG.
Mm-hmm.
So we do not take the trade. And we look at other places. So other places would be this high, that high over there, and that high. You combine that with the range deviation. So you would at least want to get into this first box, or ideally you want to get into that second box. Uh, but at least some liquidity has to be taken. That's the logic. So wait for the opening range to be formed. Uh, After that, wait for some liquidity to be taken, preferably because
Mm-hmm.
it's. I say preferably simply because it makes it a little higher probability. Wait for it to happen inside one of the deviations. And so, for
Mm-hmm.
example, the first time that we take liquidity is this line, and we are inside the box. So we start marking out the vector FVGs. And we
Mm-hmm.
have this one, which we do get a close. And because we get a close, if we act like a bot, which we are supposed to, um,
Mm-hmm.
we would have a stop loss if we use this as a stop loss high, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, so you would have a loss here, and then after that, you have this, which would be your second trade. So you would have, if you function like a bot, you
On
would
here. Mm-hmm.
you have a loss here, and then you would have this
A
this
trade
this
like
trade
this.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then after this is the one I took. Um, the logic is the higher probability take profit level is always the opposing side of the opening range.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, More than that, it becomes highly subjective. Depends on everything that you might know about technical analysis, and depends on market structure, depends on I don't know, depends if there are news, depends on everything. So
Yep.
up until you get to one of the sides of the opening range, it's the strategy. After you get beyond any level of the opening range, then it's traditional technical analysis.
Techniques. Mm-hmm.
Um, but the strategy itself is basically this: you You wait for the opening range to be formed, take liquidity, create an inverted uh, fair value gap,
FEG. Mm-hmm.
preferably inside one of the deviation boxes, and you target the opposing
Mm-hmm.
side of the opening range. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
No
Perfect. Yeah.
indicators, except for the vectors, just to know where they are
Mm-hmm.
and to know whether a trade is high probability or not, just based on the vector. Because generally, a candle that takes liquidity, has a gap, and is a vector,
Mm-hmm.
generally it's going to be a better trade. I'm saying generally because, for example, just just in this case, and I'm sure there are many others. Uh, Even on this case, this had a vector, and it was the trade that would actually lose. And the one
Mm-hmm.
that is not a vector, that candle over there is not a vector, is actually the one that won.
Mm-hmm.
You could also say uh, that most of the times you will have the exact same thing after this happens. So a lot of times after this happens, you'll have the opposing logic, which in this case, for example, it's basically the same now, same thing, but now you flip it. So um, now you would wait again to get inside one of the boxes. So for example, this move over here, even this is not, but even if this was a gap over here, you would
Mm-hmm.
uh, ignore it just because it didn't happen inside or after uh,
The aviation.
the
Mm-hmm.
deviations.
Box.
But
Deviation
for
box. Yeah.
example, this one happens
That's
inside,
perfect for it.
and we have
Mm-hmm.
that lovely tap, and yeah, that would be a trade. Uh,
Yeah.
but then it
Still
becomes
2.5 hours, but yeah.
what I was going to say is that even then, you always have to remind yourself that you're not doing the strategy again. So this is preferably better if you trail it. If you do
Mm-hmm.
trail it, uh, using whatever technique you like, if you use order
Mm-hmm.
blocks, for example, you would probably get stopped on this low. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when it drops again, you wait basically for the same conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So the second time that we do get an IFEG is over here,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't get a tap. You don't get price coming back into it, and so you can either mark it, and if you do mark it, probably you would get stopped out, break even, or there um,
Mm-hmm.
on that low. Especially for gold, especially on gold, um, I really advise you to market, not not
Mm-hmm.
set limits, because gold generally does what Bitcoin did today over here, which is uh, you create that gap, you like a gap over it, and you do not come back here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it didn't come back here for yeah,
At all.
yeah. So on gold, Bitcoin does this sometimes, but gold does this a lot of times. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so on Bitcoin, if you get in on the close, um, I don't know how good this would have been. Not that great, to be honest. I mean, you wouldn't be stopped out yet. I'm
But
gonna
you would have 2 hour.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
assume, but I'm gonna assume that you would get stopped out here on that low if you trail it with blocks or lows, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, in this day, this wasn't, to be honest, this wasn't that amazing. But I think it was yesterday, 2 days ago. Um, I don't know. I know that
That was
somebody.
that low there. Yeah,
Yeah, I know that somebody took this. I don't know if it was you,
that was
but
me. You mean
s-
that little gap here in the FAG gap, what we have from that thing? I took
uh,
it from down
yeah,
there, yeah.
yeah. Uh, this this is kind of the same logic. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and the good thing about this is that you can also check IFEGs for continuations if the market is really bullish.
Mm-hmm.
You will find these very often happening very often. And this uh, lately, I don't know who asked me about order blocks and alpha blocks. I think it was Vince.
Yeah.
Um, about blocks that don't get tapped, and you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking like it's going back to the order block, and so many times it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And it looks like uh, at at a glance, it looks like it's just pumping from nowhere, like a nowhere zone. But I
Mm-hmm.
started showing him inverted FEGs, and it does go back to the inverted FEGs a lot. One thing that I
Mm-hmm.
noticed, this is not a great example here, but one thing that I noticed was on the CVD, sometimes where we do have the inverted gaps, there's going to be like super high volume.
Yeah.
Uh, and that is very interesting. Which,
Look at the green candle to the right. There you can see it, FFG, what was here, like
mhm,
in between.
yeah. Uh, sorry. And
Oh, don't you?
and so, but continuations again, not the strategy at all, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, um, when we did get up to new highs, this was that move to the daily FEG that I pointed out the other
Mm-hmm.
day. So nothing to be done there. Uh, on Wednesday, this day was interesting because of this. So we had this was the Asia low, and this is interesting in terms of fake out. So we're going to talk about that. And this is over here. This is the London's high.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this is also Asia high, which we only got way later. So let me mark those. So I'm dispersing a little bit from the original strategy logic, but it's interesting, I promise. Um, Let me just go back over here. London started here. So this was just London's liquidity, but nothing like fancy. Okay, why is this interesting? Because we took some internal liquidity from London even before the range and then pumped. We took the London high, and you do have an inverted FEG
Mm-hmm.
there. So if you shorted, you would get either stopped out or got out break even.
Uh-huh.
When this happens, this is nothing. Like this is that the kind of trade that I just don't take nowadays, because it's happening inside the range. I would be in a short from here maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just I just wouldn't take it out. I would not know what to do with it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then the opening the opening range high gets taken, uh,
Oh, yeah.
and you do have an inverted FEG here. But two things about it:
Mm-hmm.
it's not inside the deviation, and it's not a vector.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take this. I remember, even though it was technically a good trade, I didn't take it just because it doesn't follow all of the rules.
Mm-hmm.
It would have worked anyway. We went into the low of the range, and then it starts. The interesting part starts happening, which is look how many times. God damn it! Look how many times you did get all the rules,
Mm-hmm.
and it would have just fucked you up.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
you got
that's actually what it did to me.
yeah. You'd get this, you'd get that, and you would get here. I don't know if we got back to this now. Okay. Um, because these lows, yeah, they basically went to nothing. So this all of this area, uh,
One liquidity.
I don't even think. Yeah, it went back to nothing basically. So this is one of those situations where, first of all, this is super late. This is like
Yeah.
This is like
So in
5 hours.
London.
Yeah, 5 hours after the open. So this is way after our normal trading hours
Mm-hmm.
for the strategy. As such, another interesting thing to note. One of the reasons I think my strategy works well is because you have both London and New York open.
Yeah.
They are both open at the same time. But after after this time, you only have New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can even tell by the candles. You start having like weird lows, like equal open and close on lows. The blocks start looking like those Asian blocks,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
very small blocks, a lot of vectors everywhere, you know. um, Vectors without a lot of movement actually. Like the candles are vectors, but they don't actually move that much in price.
Mm-hmm.
So the price action gets really weird. Um, and this example over here is a great. Sorry, this price action over here is a great example of why I really like to trade those first 2 hours of the New York Open
Mm-hmm.
and not much more than that because
Mm-hmm.
price just gets a little bit more unpredictable after that. Even though if if um, if you would trade all of these, you would get into profit sooner or later. Like for
Mm-hmm.
example, even if you had this loss, and even if you have
That loss.
this
Yeah.
loss,
What could be a good scalp, you know?
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm just
And that
assuming
one
that we don't
usually.
close.
Yeah.
Even if you have these two losses eventually, you would get an amazing trade after that. Oops, I just wanted to track. You would get an amazing trade after that, and obviously this doesn't happen every day. But even if it was like
Mm.
just a 3R or to target the Asian
Mm-hmm.
high because we took the Asia low, right? If you target the Asia high, this would be uh, 6.5, something like that. And I'm using a candle close. It could be either that one or that one. Even if it's like this,
Mm-hmm.
this is a 3.5 would compensate for those. But that's the thing. This pattern of unpredictability is something that is very
Mm-hmm.
seen, very common uh, after this session. after the London closes, because the price action just becomes a little bit less reliable slash um,
Unpredictable, yeah. Crazy.
uh, maybe it's because of having lower volume, because the
Yeah.
London participants are no longer there. That's a lot of volume, even though it's not the session with the highest volume. It still
Mm.
is a lot of volume that is out of the markets. So maybe that explains it.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
another day. Um, I don't know if I don't remember if we took. Yeah, we took. Okay. So this was the previous day low, just to show more examples, right?
Hmm.
This was previous day low. We got the
TP, yeah.
range. The range takes nothing. The range is very internal, right?
Hmm.
It's inside this high and that high. It does nothing, so you wouldn't take a trade inside this. And then you come into the deviation areas and you have a vector F IFEG. So minimally, the range is over here. You obviously wouldn't do a negative R. So you would look for stacked liquidity. I would probably have um,
Avoided
closed
that one, yeah.
something like this just because it's
Hmm.
what seems easier. And yes, I'm very aware that it's not a lot of RR, but uh, this is the higher probability TP. Um,
Hmm.
and after that, uh, we take that high. When we take that high, we do have another. And this, if I remember correctly, this is that day that we were looking that price is
Yeah.
super bullish and looks nice to be continued up. And we come back to that concept of saying that after you take the opposing side of the opening range, you have to use more traditional TA.
Hmm.
Um, even though if you had gotten in on this trade, you probably wouldn't have. Oh, fuck. You would probably not lose it just because of moving stops to break even and trailing
Hmm.
because of order blocks, blah blah blah. Um,
Hmm.
but after this, like even this low, um, I mean, I hate this low. This low is ugly as
Yeah.
fuck. So you go back into that logic of using traditional analysis, and
Hmm.
after that, you know, it's anyone's game, right?
Yeah.
Previous day
Cool.
before that,
Cool.
same logic. In this case, you could take um,
Hmm.
take an IFEG, which, for example, you don't have here. So you take this
Hmm.
liquidity. You do not create an IFEG here, but you do on the second one. So you could long here, target this liquidity, the opposing side, and that's it.
Hmm.
Flip it
Hmm.
again here, target the opposing side, that's it.
Yeah.
This is a good example of the flip, like doing both. Where's the close?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, even if even if you just do this, which makes the RR kind of terrible, but even if you do it like that, uh, this is a good example of both situations done.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I think that's it. Questions?
That's, no. No. It was honestly just a previous liquidity grab, like where to start to look for it, like previous day
Hmm.
lows or previous day highs. and then it was internal in the range where to take it. And this is exactly what I was like caught today. What you showed
All right.
was the after hours. Till then, I did really good. After the 2 hours, it started being choppy, and it was not in the deviation ranges. It was all in the middle of the range. So
Yep.
unpredictable to go.
Yep. Yep.
And that's why that was good that I cleared it up, because now because my rule was the low, you look for long. The high, you look for a short. And before that, you don't even trade anything what is in 50% in the middle of the range. Don't even touch it, because it's
Exactly.
going to chop back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, especially around the POC. When you have one, like in the middle, and you take a trade there on 50% of your FIP or something like that, you always get stopped out.
Yeah.
That's where I lose the most money.
Yep.
And this is patience, wait.
Yes. Yes. I know.
Hmm.
You the other day you wanted to ask something about the RTH and the gaps and stuff. Do you remember what it was? I know
Oh, we
that you
go
had a
through that.
question, but
Yeah,
what was the
we
question?
go that. No, then we're gonna go through that one more time. I wrote it down, but I don't know where my piece of paper now is. I have a whole list what I wanted to ask you, like little things, like so that when we have next time a little time, like, and we have a class then or a lesson, private one, with Jelena together or something, that I would have my questions already ready.
All
Other
right.
than that, everything is good.
But
The
what was the
you
gaps question? Do you remember?
No, I have to look it up
Right.
again. Every time we talk, I make a little note and then I have my questions together.
No problem.
But you know what? What I figured out somehow, if you go on your uh, ORTR,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
What about it?
just a second, just a second. See, Glennis just has to go somewhere. If you go on your ORTR and you open up and you look, for example, when the time is that Tokyo opens, it is 9 a.m. But if I put it on the 19 hours here, it is 8 a.m. So I'm thinking that there is a summertime here somewhere
Oh yeah,
in the
probably.
timing. Yeah, that's
Probably.
why like the last since I think 4 weeks or 3 weeks, I put the TR on, like the ORTR, and it goes to there. But I go on my timing, like on my STPO, and it's
And
different.
it's yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. To be
So
honest, I don't know which one is correct.
it's
Um.
I put the 8 hours in, and then it's correct for me too. I rather take the earlier one,
Mhm.
because if I take the later one, then I miss the opening of the range.
Okay. Mhm.
So I just compensate with that. But it only started like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I think it's the summertime, when they changed it. In when was it?
Hey,
In
I just
uh
noticed. I just noticed. Bitcoin on. Wait. Bitcoin on Binance took the lows here. These
hmm
were the lows that I wanted
hmm
to be taken out, and it did
hmm
take them, but not on CME.
Okay.
And we're going into the weekend now.
hmm
So, we're going into the weekend with these highs.
And
Price,
April knows.
yeah. So basically, when Monday starts, I'm doing
hmm
absolutely nothing until we take liquidity.
I will join you.
Yeah. I'll,
Would you do the same technique on Asia then too?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Good.
never tested it out, but I think the ORTR works just as good
Oh, perfect. No, no
on
problems at all. Yeah.
on the other sessions.
Yesterday I I made so good money with the other session with Asia always. I leave it on Tokyo. I don't even care about Hong Kong. I leave it on Tokyo, and there's always good moves. A little bit boring, because it doesn't move so fast, but it moves definitely in the first half an hour, 45 minutes. And it always likes to take the Sydney high or low, or London or New York previous. One of them he always wants to take if it's not too far away.
For example, took liquidity here.
Mm-hmm.
You have that gap, that gap. Both of them would have worked
Mm-hmm.
if the stop loss is over
Yeah.
there. Then you
The second
come
gap
to
was my trade.
yeah. But then you come to the second box, the opposing box. You
Mm-hmm.
take some liquidity and the range. Um, you have a gap
That
here.
gap. Mm-hmm. And below you have a gap as well. A
Um,
little one. That's the one what I took actually
the second
for
one.
long.
All right. And
No,
I don't
the same
know.
block
Yeah,
where
but
you
this
are.
would fail actually. But this would
Oh
fail.
yeah, yeah, I know. I know. That was only a scalp to go in.
This would fail. What about this? Wow, that is so weird, man. What a fucking gay move. But yeah, okay, whatever. So you go into the
So it didn't take.
box. You go into the
Mhm.
box. Let me see.
Oh, I took it one time.
Ah, so one loss
But
here,
no backturns. Yeah, exactly.
one loss here, and then a stupid, weird win.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
But,
That's so weird.
you but if you look on different exchanges again, that could have been just a triple equal lows.
Yeah,
And then the last thing where you said the weird vector movement took the liquidity actually, and then made the inverted gap.
yeah, you could argue that. But for example, this is Wednesday, and on Wednesday,
Mhm.
you would get fucked over and over and over and over again.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
Let me just see, when do we take liquidity? Wednesday, Wednesday, here.
We only take. Yeah.
Uh, we don't ever do. You can argue maybe that we go to that range. Where's the POC? You could argue that we go to the POC at 97,546. Let's put a line there. Okay. But this is very hindsight.
Hmm.
I'm looking at it now because I can see what happened, but I would not trade based on that.
Know that. Yeah, exactly.
I would wait for liquidity to be taken. But obviously, now in hindsight, I can say, yeah, obviously it went to the range POC. When it did that, it did have an inverted gap. Okay, whatever. Right?
Mm-hmm.
uh, but if it's not that, for example, you would have a stop loss here.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that it's the only one. I thought it would be
Yeah.
a lot more than that, so that's not too bad.
No, because the diversion boxes were so small, there was nothing happening before that.
Hey, but yeah, but
That opening wave
I
was
don't
so
think this works as good because, for example, what I
on.
always say that it's the most highly probable TP on New York Open, which is the low of the range, it functioned as support actually. So that range tiny order block functioned as support.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have my TP on this line and never get never get filled on the TP. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I wouldn't say that it works as good.
Yeah.
Uh,
And you don't have the two markets. Oh, well, that's not true. Hong Kong and Tokyo come together and deliver it
uh, yeah, but from that perspective, you would have to use the TR only on uh,
on Tokyo.
no, Tokyo is first, right? Yeah, Tokyo is
Yep.
first. Yeah, so you from that perspective, you could only use the opening range on Hong Kong
Oh, okay.
uh, to use the two market logic.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Oh, yes,
but I don't think
because we
it's
do
as good.
that with Tokyo, with London and New York as well.
Yeah, but
We
I don't
take the
think
New
it's as
York
good,
and we
brother.
put London.
Uh,
No, 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 no,
this
never.
is
There's
good
not enough
for
volume.
this is good for New York because it's so volatile, and it's good also because my backtest was on Nasdaq, which is basically as volatile or even more volatile than Bitcoin during
Hmm.
the open. So that's the logic, and we have to focus on that. Um, which talking about the RTH gaps, I just remembered these. We're still going to have uh, to when we open up on Monday.
Hmm.
You see that line over there, the
Hmm.
diagonal one.
Hmm. That one is today. Yeah.
What, in my opinion, what matters to New York on Monday is this high. Because when you go on RTH, it's the only high that you see. So this is going to be Friday's New York high.
Hmm.
And the logic is if we go into 104 to 160 and people start buying here because they see a new high being made, um, if people overbuy this level, we might not even get to that one,
Hmm.
uh, and and then start reaching this gap.
The gaps. Yeah.
If we do
Oh, I know.
that, um, if we do that, we're going to get into an interesting level that you can see on the electronic hours, which is the naked view up and point of control on an order block that actually looks good. Like this
Hmm.
was kind of like an accumulation with internal
Hmm.
liquidity, and then you get the manipulation to the downside, and then you flip back up. So
Hmm.
this becomes an interesting level. Also, this is the same area that I mentioned the other day. Give me a second. That I mentioned
Yep.
the other day
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
That has oh, this is old.
Range POC.
But that range POC is old. Um, that
Oh,
has monthly view up, weekly view up, previous week view up, naked view up, naked point of control. So this little range over here, in my opinion, is the most interesting one that we have. And on top of that, if I hide all of this, and if I do this,
bottom pocket.
this area is where you have Hori's favorite 702 and Golden Pocket. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in a lot of concepts. It's a favorite area. I just don't have too much confidence on it because probably everyone is going to be looking at that level to buy again.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it generally doesn't end well, which
Yeah.
could take us down to 94, and maybe this
Mm-hmm.
range holds.
Other level. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But this, I would like this to hold just because of the anchored view ups um, and the idea of
The
taking
confirmation
some of the
that you have
liquidity. Yeah,
there.
this is probably the best. But yeah, I would really not be surprised if we don't take that high, just take this internal high and start dropping
Mm-hmm.
because of what we see on. Speaking of which, where do we have? Oh, it's done. Okay, never mind. I was gonna ask where do we have the weekend gap, but it's here.
CME gap. Mm-hmm.
It would be nice also if we start dropping during the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
because if we do, then we're gonna have a CME gap to fill to the upside, which can then take us to higher levels. But man, I'm really glad about this analysis that we did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, really glad. Like, and it's funny because um, this is a good example of how sometimes it doesn't really matter how much knowledge I have. It's interesting that with people that are learning from me, in this
Mm-hmm.
case Charlie, um, it's when someone else asks a question, even if it's a dumb question, even if it's a question wanting to learn something basic. When
Mm-hmm.
someone asks something, whether it's an advanced question or not, it makes me think and look at things from another perspective very often.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I think the question that Charlie did was related to um, a move on RSI
Uh-huh.
and also about structure, like where could we go because of structure.
Yeah.
And my objective, my mission, so to speak, was to tell him to like forget about the indicators and just look at the price where and ask himself like where are inefficiencies in the current price action, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
I came up to that daily FEG. Because if he didn't ask
Mm-hmm.
that, I would pro-
You would not even
maybe
found it here. Yeah.
maybe I would find it, maybe I wouldn't. But it's because he asked that I did see it. You know, um,
Mm-hmm.
it's always very
Helpful.
yeah, yeah, to have like multiple views.
Yeah, it's interesting with the FEGs, like because I usually point out all the FEGs on every time frame. And then sometimes I'm like,
It
maybe
becomes
not.
too much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes too much.
And I
Uh,
just put
I
the
like
comment.
just doing I like doing the following, which is like starting. I don't do. I know that a lot of people do unconventional time frames, like 6 hours, 3 hours, stuff like that, 3 weeks, 3 days, and I don't want to say that's a bad idea at all. I don't want to suggest that. Um, but I think it becomes too much for my own brain to handle. So
Yeah.
nowadays, what I just do is daily, 4 hour, 1 hour, 15
Mm-hmm.
minutes. And
Yeah.
whenever I want to go lower than 15 minutes, that's when I'm actually trading
Mm-hmm.
and trying to execute on the 1 minute. But for example, if our trading view account was used only by me, I would have 1 minute, 15, 1 hour, 4 hour, and daily. That's it. And maybe the weekly to mark out weekly levels because I use that as well. But that's
Yeah.
it. Uh, I've
You know,
done so many tests with different time frames. Some of them
yeah,
were successful. I'm not saying they were not,
yeah,
but it the more I simplify things,
the
uh,
better it gets.
yeah, the better it gets in terms of results.
Like the thing is, I do all of these analyzing every day, and you can bet that I'm not looking at the order blocks at the different time frames because I have
Hmm.
15 different ones, like to remember, and that's
Yeah,
exactly what you just said.
becomes too
So I
much, right?
make all of the work, what is okay, it's a good exercise to do it, but
Yeah, but at the
honestly,
same
I should
time,
leave it.
like we don't have
Yeah,
a lot of time available, so
exactly.
at the same time it
I don't
becomes
want to sit
exhausting.
there. Yeah. And on the bigger time frames, it's easier to find OBs and some levels to put together and have them just like you said, daily. I like the 12 hours because Hori uses it a lot. 6 hours I like too because
Hmm.
it always shows like a little bit more than the 4 1, 4, and then I go down to the 1. And I'm only gonna start now doing order blocks on the different files. I'm gonna kick out all the charts files. I have to work on that on the weekend and clean that
Yeah,
up.
man, I really like this chart the way it is. Uh, for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is that the daily FEG on the CME chart was perfectly tapped. Um,
Yeah.
not on Binance. On Binance, we surpassed it a bit. We went a little bit above it. Um, and what we did react to was the naked point of control and previous day view app that we had since forever, since January. These are
Hmm.
January levels. Um, but we got there, and now the interesting part becomes if we go to that 96 or 97 level that I was talking about, or
Hmm.
if we actually come here to levels inside this. And levels inside this, what I would be interested in is the 382. Gosh, there's too much info. Let me put them on the left side. Or better yet, let me hide this one and hide this one. Alright. Um, sorry, not the 382, 236, I guess. Right, 236 is the top of this range. So that's why it might be
Hmm.
interesting. We either
Hmm.
go there or to the 0.5. If we go lower than that, I think it's a bad sign because I want to
Yeah.
believe that this is a breakaway gap. And a breakaway gap doesn't have to come back to premium. Sorry, to discount.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to. The concept of a breakaway gap is that we don't.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Keep that level.
yeah. Also, if this um, if this is an Elliott wave, then it becomes so potentially ginormous for a move up. Because if this is the first move,
Holy macro, yeah, the first leg.
yeah, holy shit, right?
Yeah.
Holy shit. If this is the if this is the first move, oh, I don't have. Yeah, Andre had
The Elliott wave thing
the Elliott
with the
wave
5 month.
fibs. Yeah, I don't have that. I could Google it, but I don't care. um, yeah, but anyway, I think the first was to bounce in between 236 and 382, so it would come to this order block. Um,
Hmm.
and then the target would be that.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3. 1,002. 100,023.
120.
Yeah.
Good.
And then it
Okay,
just
my
becomes crazy, right? Then it just becomes
yeah,
crazy. Like who knows? But the chart looks really good. The chart looks good for a number of things. One of them is for the PO3 count.
yeah.
Uh, and
One.
I think the
Mm-hmm.
PO3 count was basically this, but uh, the logic was that
That is
the um, the distribution part would be double the accumulation, and
exactly.
so it would be kind of like this.
The
Whoa!
35,000 was
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So
131. Yeah, that would be crazy, man.
well,
But like we will see. Maybe Bitcoin separates from the rest of the markets. Like because
yeah.
we have so many
Like why
crazy
not?
parts happening.
Yeah, like why
Exactly.
not? You know.
So maybe that's the new thing. We will see.
Another thing,
Whoa. Huh. I have to go to the toilet, my friend. I have to pee like a horse.
you're
What
getting
another thing
old.
say?
Now, I was gonna say
Yeah,
another thing. If you look at this on the weekly, then the TR pocket becomes like this. End of the move to the correction, and
hmm
the the one-to-one extension is 145. 618 is
exactly.
131.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is crazy.
brother, we're done.
Yeah, absolutely. I am
It's,
so done.
I can go to
I'm
sleep.
gonna lay down, I
I'm
think
gonna,
now.
yeah, as
I'm gonna go
usual.
sleeping, man, as
I'll
usual.
I will post this on Discord.
That's very good.
Tag Yelena
Hey,
so that she doesn't get sad.
gosh, she was like, you guys did something what I never seen before. It's like,
We got you,
no.
Yelena. We got you. We got you. And then she's gonna ask 1,000 different questions about this and ask when
Yeah,
can we have a session about the session, right, Yelena?
exactly. Yeah,
Oh, by the way, this is going to become a good test to see if she watches the video until the end.
exactly. If we are mentioning her or not, we should put some secret words in, and she has to write it down.
Brother, see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Have a
Hey,
good day.
thank you very, very much. And you say hi to Sarah, and we talk tomorrow, okay?
Rajanet. Bye bye.
Roger that. Don't forget, Sunday is Mother's Day.
It in Portugal it was the previous Sunday.
Oh, okay. You guys have it a week earlier, like the Germans. Okay.
Yeah,
Good to know.
yeah. But thanks
Okay.
for the reminder. Bye bye, my friend. See you again.
Bye bye.
Bye.